Hello, beautiful creative soul, and welcome back to another episode of Chakra Care for the Creative Soul. Hello, I'll be your host today. My name is Pollyanna Blanco, and today we're going to be looking at how to face fear, activate your divine creativity, and rise. Today is a really important show, and I'm so happy that you're here. At Chakra Care for the Creative Soul, it's a show that offers you a sacred invitation to slow down and restore calm so you can tune into your divine creativity. In these shifting times, restoring the sacred to your self-care has never been more important. If you identify as a light worker, I'm here to support you to care as much for yourself as you care for the world while you're birthing your dreams into a beautiful reality. And so this topic is really near and dear to my heart. It's something that in my own journey I have struggled with at times, and I still continue to work on. And I know that when we talk openly about these deeper topics that create, growth in our lives, we can expand beyond the illusion that would seek to actually hold us back and keep us stuck in repeating cycles that only further reinforce and fortify things that are just simply not true about why we're here. And so when I sat with Spirit and I invited in, the possibility of a new topic, and I just was open and curious, what came through so clearly today is we're now in these beautiful energies that are expanding. We're in a real up-level period for humanity, especially over the next 6 months and beyond. But definitely right now, this time that we're in between April, May, and June, as my beautiful, beloved spiritual teachers at Tosa Blue Mountain would say, as Master Lady Kira Ra and the Kira Ra Sri Ram Ka presence would say, we're in this incredible gift of this time out of time. And today I actually took some of my own time out of time to literally be still, be quiet, and really step outside of all of the busyness. My morning started off beautifully. I had a chance to reconnect with a friend I haven't seen since before the pandemic. And we went for a lovely walk, a 2-hour walk in the woods, and then spent time, after that, shared time together, enjoying a nice tea and a talk and just really reconnecting. And what came through in that lovely conversation and reconnection was the importance of our sharing and connection with each other as a humanity. And also within that, every time we share with each other, there is this opening that happens where we can see ourselves in the other person. We can really feel through our gift of presence with one another this invitation to be present to ourselves and to really, and what really started to bubble up that I feel so compelled to share today is this is someone I haven't seen, a lovely person I haven't seen, like I said, for years. We're on similar and yet different life paths. And at the same time, we are both with our own way of expressing it, opening to this profound clarity that it is the divine. When we are, busy and even the way conventional conversations might go when people are busy about just the doings of life and the sort of the event log, I guess, if you will, is what I want to say, is that this conversation just was a beautiful affirmation that it's happening for all of us. And we might have different languaging that we use. We might have different beliefs that we subscribe to. And at the end, at the core of that conversation, what spoke loudest for me today is that there's this emergence happening in all of us as human beings, this desire to expand beyond what is in front of us and to find that deeper connection to our purpose, to find that opening, to create that opening for that divine creativity to flow through us. And so I felt guided, and I still feel guided, that in order to sort of talk on this topic today, that Spirit invited me to share with all of you and to offer, so that we can offer each other this gift of listening and sharing. And so I invite you to comment below this video, wherever you're watching it. What is pinging for you? If there's anything in here that I'm sharing, if there's anything in here that has been on your mind or in your heart or in your field of awareness around divine, creativity and the edges, I like to call them, that we bump up against, just anything that you feel inspired to share, just knowing and trusting that when we share, we are offering each other this wonderful gift of being able to open ourselves up more to that which wants to be seen, wants to be heard, wants to be acknowledged, wants to be recognized, wants to be embraced. And this is where the fear piece comes in, because at this point, for so many of us on the awakening journey, we've been working through facing our fears. We've been working through all the places and spaces that have maybe up until now been holding us back. So this isn't something that we're new to. This is something we've been on a journey with for quite some time now. What I've been noticing in my own journey is how sly the ego can be and how subtle the fear can be. And so this is the piece that I really wanted to present today, with a whole heartfelt and soulful intention that there would be something in it for you too. That by just opening up this conversation, it would invite in an opportunity for us all to expand and to grow. And that's where your comments too will also serve me well. And I really thank you for anyone who feels inspired to do so and takes the time to do so. So hands on heart, the sly fox of fear. Where are we going here? Well, in my own journey so far, whenever there's been this moment where I felt an inspiration to do something, and then there's been a little bit of pullback, what I've noticed is it can be so subtle. It can be so subtle and seemingly innocuous that my mentality can start to kick in is what I want to say. And it can start to be very, it can take me out of my multidimensional presence and into my thinking mind, where I engage on that level and I collapse out all the other possibilities that are in front of me. So the practice of noticing what I'm noticing in the moment is so important. And this is what's before all of us right now. When we are going through when you're going through your day-to-day life, when you are feeling this inspiration to take a step forward, to move in a certain direction. It could be something as simple as whether to go for a walk or not. It could be something much more significant than that. But I find that it's often in these little micro decisions and choices we make throughout the day that we have this opportunity to really be present to the fear that's there, to notice on a subtle level where the veil is getting thinner, and yet it's not completely been lifted. So one of the things that is very helpful is to notice those little moments of callback, or because it's not even a push, it's just a callback. It's a callback into maybe our thinking about what's going on, or maybe a feeling or an emotion about what's going on, or maybe even a meaning that we are attaching to this now moment that is kind of familiar, right? It's something we've often said to ourselves in similar moments in the past, and beginning to recognize the callback into these moments of thinking about the moment, emoting about the moment, making meaning out of the moment, maybe even having some physical tension in our body about the moment, and noticing ourselves, noticing that, being open and curious and going, I wonder what that's all about, as opposed to hooking into the thoughts, the emotions, the meaning, the tension in the body, because that will open up a sort of a cavalcade, or a cascade. Actually, not so much a cavalcade. I guess the word I'm really looking for is a cascade, a ripple effect that can either keep us spinning out, drop us down. And this is where we can find that the fear that we're being offered the opportunity to move through can hook us back in again. And on the flip side of that is when we engage even on these subtle levels with these little tiny moments where our awareness hooks into these sticky places, we still then reinforce on some level this idea that our creativity is somehow separate from us. It's somehow out there. And again, these are not the big aha moments that we've had on our spiritual inner growth, awakening, soulful development journeys. These are the refinements. I feel like right now, over the next 3 months, we're in this beautiful phase of making refinements. There will be perhaps some big aha moments too. And at the same time, I feel like the work that's being called forward for a lot of us is to make these little refinements. They're in the nuances as opposed to the big, huge, catapulting moments, because it's in these fine noticings that it's almost like the crack where the light comes in. It's not a big gaping hole. It's this moment where we can notice the places that are like the loose ends that, if we pull on that thread, it all starts to come apart. Whereas if we notice a loose thread and tend to it and mend it with our love, with our presence, with our, noticing where it's going, noticing where we can weave it back into the overall larger sense of what is in front of us, then that's when we are able to focus on the expansion of what's emerging, and allow that fear to be the medicine. It is what I'm called to say, the medicine, the balm for our soul that mends rather than unravels. And so one of the ways, and again, whenever I share with all of you, it's sort of an inspired speech. I never really plan out what I'm going to say. I just trust, the divine to speak, to guide my words, and to, I'm not channeling, but I'm just feeling guided to speak off the cuff, if you will call it that, with what is sort of present with and for me now, because I know it's not just with me, it's with so many, and that I am just an offering, a reflection of, perhaps if you're feeling guided to this call, of what wants to be seen and heard in you. And so the creativity piece that's so subtle, that's been coming into my own awareness, is that there are little micro moments where that I'm starting to notice more where, and I like to kind of almost see it as a choose your own adventure novel, where there's a part of me that still maybe needs a little bit of unwinding, that still would, if given the full on, like collapsing out all other aspects of me that can witness it, is what I want to say. There's still those little parts of me that would want to have me believing that somehow my creativity is when I'm focusing on what I want to co create, when I'm focusing on what I want to manifest, when I'm focusing on all the juicy good stuff. And that's a distraction. It's so fine, it's so subtle. What I'm noticing is that the divine creativity that is expressing is always expressing. There's never a moment when it's not expressing. There's just this sort of peanut gallery of mind chatter that wants to come in. They're the old familiar responses through my body's nervous system that have been sort of that are beyond the thinking mind, that can easily take me into moments of feeling, well, that's not what I wanted to create. What's going on here? There's something getting in the way. And how I choose to engage with that sense that there's something getting in the way of what I want to co-create or what I want to call forward, how that's the tipping point. That's the precious gift. That's the moment where, when I notice myself saying what's getting in the way between what I want to choose, what I want to call in, what I want to co-create, and I'm over here, that's the bridge that I'm being asked to cross by noticing that actually I'm co-creating now. I'm co-creating in this now moment. And that's the fear, the gift of the fear. The fear is the medicine that helps me to face, embrace, become aware, and receive the message. Face, embrace, become aware, and receive the message. That is the gift of the fear. I'm going to say it one more time. Face, embrace, become aware, and receive the message. One of the things I've been sharing so much lately with people I've had the blessing to walk beside and work with the students in my classroom where I teach, with myself, because it feels like this is the invitation in front of all of us. I've been practicing it with myself, and I share it with all of you now, is that in these fluid times of so much happening on so many different levels for all of us, emotionally, mentally, physically, spiritually, our consciousness is emerging. Our capacity to step out of the spin, out of the stickiness, out of the wash, rinse, repeat cycles in our life, the pain loops, is so profound. And I had a moment where I teach, where my Edison, there was a day of just so many things sort of out picturing and mirroring back to me. Excuse me, I feel my throat chakra is clearing a little bit here. About people sort of stepping forward and saying, I had a nightmare last night. What does that mean? I that was about old stuff that I thought I had, dealt with, cleared, healed, released. Why is it coming up now? It was, and it gripped me on an emotional level, and it got me thinking and questioning if I had healed it. And I started making some meaning out of it, that, maybe I wasn't as far along as I thought I was in my healing journey. And my body feels all sort of like tense and tight, and this whole sort of cacophony of of the volume being turned up on the gift of the fear, that, if seen for what it you know is that gift, and if hooked back into, can pull us not only back into the spin, but down into the mosh pit. And one of the most powerful things that I've been learning along my journey, and it's stayed with me ever since, is that when the old energies bubble up to the surface, the key is to recognize the gift that your now experience is able to recognize them as old in the first place. That you're able to say, you know, I was here and then this happened, this awareness bubbled up to the surface. And I feel a contrast. I feel that it somehow feels old or just unpleasant, or it's making me uncomfortable. It's making me go into some fear. It's making me feel like something is not flowing here, is another way to put it. And to recognize it as wanting to come up for release rather than getting brought into the stickiness of it again and getting confused by it. And so, as one of my previous teachers would have said to me, and I still use this phrase, just bless it, thank it, and release it. Bless it, thank it, and release it. And that, when I learned that piece, it was so liberating, because it's this idea of, just because it's bubbling up in our awareness doesn't mean it's the truth for us anymore. It doesn't mean, in fact, it's the beauty of it is recognizing that we've gotten to this now moment where we can recognize it as something that is from the past, from past learning, past growing, past experience. And so it's almost like a little review check from the universe. Did I receive the learning? What is the learning? And what I've noticed in my own journey is, if there's any stickiness in terms of an emotional energy that sort of still feels there's some residue to, it's an opportunity to be curious from that observer self place, and to send that that's when I get curious. I say, how old are you? You know, and I open to it, rather than just saying, I want to release it, I want to dissolve it, it's gone. Like, the key is, if I feel completely neutral in the presence of that awareness, that, oh, that dream reminds me of something that I thought I had dealt with, and I'm able to have that awareness from a neutral place, then I bless it, thank it, and release it. If, on the other hand, it's got a little bit of Velcro, it's got a little bit of kick to it on some level, that's when, from that neutral, non-judgmental, loving, compassionate observer self, now, as my daily practice, I see it as an opportunity to have that intimacy, where I ask that energy how old it is. I ask it, what it needs from me. I ask it, how I can show up for it. I ask it what wants to be resolved. I ask it whatever I feel guided, to in the moment along those lines. And then I give it space. I give it presence. I give it love. I give it acceptance, without wanting to change it or trying to change it, or fix it, or have it be other than it is in the moment. And what I've noticed is that acceptance piece is so key for the unraveling of that little tiny knot, that little tiny pull in the material. And that acceptance relaxes the tension between me and it, and allows me to breathe into the oneness in the moment, allows that presence in me, that divine mastery presence in me, to be the guide, as opposed to those other aspects of me that are needing that awareness. So this is where, to tie it all together again, speaking to this topic today about fear and facing it, in the past I had a very different understanding of it. Face the fear. What does that mean? That seems daunting. That seems scary. That seems like intense. And I think this is why a lot of people oftentimes dance around their fear. do spiritual bypassing, rationalize things. I know I did for years because it seems huge to be facing our fears. Oh, it takes courage, and it does take courage. It takes heart, it takes presence. And that, when you call forward your heart, your presence, what a beautiful way to really recognize that fear is a gift to step into love and presence. It's actually a gift. It's something we want to embrace, and that we have the capacity to embrace it, and that there's so many inner riches in it. And it's okay as people on a spiritual awakening journey to admit, oh my gosh, I've been on this journey for 20 years and I still have some fear in me. To have the humility to recognize that, to have the capacity to, in that moment, remember that the fear that is there is, this is what I'm feeling called to say right now. When that fear is present, and our self that we identify with says, oh no, I've done that. I'm no longer fearful. I'm full of joy. I'm open. And no, that I've dealt with that. It's healed. It's good, and everything like that. What I've been noticing in my own journey, if I really am transparent with myself, I'm really honest and show up for all of myself, is that it's okay. That's the way the fear tries to hook it on such a subtle level. It tries to, there's a part of me that says, no, 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 no. There's no fear there. There's no fear there. We've got this, I see it. I see you, fear, but I'm not you. And there's still a separation. There's still a separation between the part of me that I've got this, I'm present, and the fear is something that there's still a little bit of a this going on, right? As opposed to, thank you, fear, for showing up. Thank you for showing me that I have the capacity to love you as me. And that's what dissolves. I find that's what really dissolves any of the bumps in the road, and the pulls in the material, right? And I know I'm mixing my metaphors right now, but it just allows it to become, um, it's all good. It's all for learning. It's all for growth. And this was really what I felt guided to share with everyone today. It doesn't matter how long you've been on a spiritual journey. Fear is something we can't outrun. It's always going to be a part of our human experience, even as divine beings having a human experience. It's not that we're here to outrun fear or completely never experience it again. We're here to be in a totally different relationship to it, one that empowers us to be the most loving, present beings that we can be, and to hold that space for others as well too, to recognize for them when they can't recognize for themselves, when they are going into fear, to love them more than they can even love themselves in that moment, to hold open that possibility that fear will become a friend, not a foe, and to hold the balance through those moments, because they ripple through all of us, because and ultimately there really is no separation. Everything is creation itself. Everything is, being co-created together. It's not just the what is being, co-created, and if I like it or not. It's that we are co-creation. It's how we are showing up. It's how we are in relationship to each other. That is the co-creation itself. It's not the thing that we're wanting to call in. That is the ripple effect, or the result of being in co-creation. Our energies, the more we focus our energies, the more something emerges through them, but it's not the thing itself. And so I feel like this is before us as a humanity right now, that these subtle refinements, these adjustments on our dials of awareness. It's almost like the aperture on a camera. You know, are we opening it or closing so much? What is that letting in? What is that blocking out? And why are we blocking certain things out? You know, why not have a wide angle lens and trust that we have the capacity to see what's in front of us as well as what's beyond us. And we don't need to just see only with our eyes. We can see with our hearts. We can see with our spirit. We can see with our souls. We can see through the eyes of the divine, knowing that what is most in front of us right now will be the outpicturing beyond. So where it's blurry, where we don't have any depth of field, where it's, sort of a foggy day is not something we need to be fearful about or concerned about, because it's how we show up right now and see through that wide angle lens what's in front of us now. You can tell I teach photography or have taught photography, and so I've got these metaphors. I hope they make sense on some level. If not, the key takeaway here is that the moment that is before all of us is to notice the relationship we have to it, to ourselves, to each other, to the energy of the moment, and to not make any of it wrong, to simply embrace whatever is there for the purpose of expansion, so that we can become larger and larger openings for the divine creativity that's pouring through all of us. And and through that awareness, through that consciousness emerging itself, be the embodiment, the containers that are holding open the frequency of that love and light that holds the balance for all of humanity right now, that really recognizes through all the many layers of the experiences that we're having that it's our presence at the end of the day that we are in continual creation from. And with that, I feel like that's everything that it feels complete, everything that I felt guided to share with all of you today. I would so love to hear your comments below. I know this is a pre-recorded call. I felt guided to do that today, and I just honored that. I will be back in the studio again live so that you can join me and ask your questions and share and co-create with me in that way again too. For now, I really sincerely, hand on heart, invite you to care for yourself, care for what you're, in creation with in this now moment, and to join me in this co-creation, not only through watching this share, also in consciously sharing some energy through a comment, so that we can bring forward the most beautiful possibilities together. And I feel sometimes that commenting is also an invitation to face those subtle fears about showing up, to face those subtle fears about, taking a stand for what you're claiming consciously as what you're co-creating and how you're contributing your energy to it. So please consider that, not only for me, for all of the wonderful shows that Oneness Talk Radio, and for all of the community that's here. We're, as Master Lady Kira Ra would say, we are so much better together. And even though this is a digital platform, these are still digital too. We're all digital beings in one sense, right? You've got 10 digital experiences and 20 if you want to work with your toes. And you can do some digital commenting with a little bit of your hands to share some energy and some love with this community as a whole as well too. Wishing you a wonderful week ahead. In the Catch Alakeen, I am another you, and you are another me. Be well, beautiful creative soul.